Welcome to Take a Breath, a podcast for creating practical calm in the messy middle of midlife. I'm Polly, and this is your space to pause. Because life in midlife is full on, between work, family, menopause, and the mental load, your nervous system can easily end up in constant overdrive, leaving you feeling exhausted, reactive, and overwhelmed by even the smallest things. Each week, I'll share my own tools alongside honest conversations and practical nervous system support to help you create more calm, peace, joy, and inner steadiness. So whenever you're ready, let's take a breath in through the nose, feel your belly rise, your ribs expand, and as you exhale, let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to Take a Breath. Now, I've taken a couple of weeks off recording for this podcast, which was really not my intention. And I'm sorry if you turned up and were looking forward to an episode, but I just was not in the right frame of mind to record an episode in the last couple of weeks. So if you didn't know, I mean, honestly, I have been banging on about this and a lot because it has been such a big deal for me at the moment. But I had surgery on my left knee, nearly 3 weeks ago now, to reconstruct my ACL ligament in my knee, which is a real bummer of a ligament when it doesn't go right, when things start to go wrong. And I also had some of the meniscus and cartilage sorted out from a skiing accident. Oh my gosh, long time ago, before Christmas. So it's been a bit of a year this year. Anyway, I finally had the surgery and it took a lot more out of me than I was expecting. So the last couple of weeks, I've really struggled to focus, to concentrate. I haven't been focused on showing up and doing work. And I decided that it was really probably more important to focus on recovering and just healing and doing all the things I knew were good for me. Plus, my brain has been all over the shop. I've really had the worst brain fog, I think, post general anesthetic, just not being able to think, not being able to concentrate, not being able to remember anything more than normal. But I feel called now to record this episode for you because I feel like I'm kind of getting into phase 2 of this whole saga. Thank goodness. I feel that first initial phase post-op is now done, and I'm going to record an episode for you today, really just to tell you a little bit about what I've learned, particularly from early this week, actually. Interestingly, as you know, I record on an Instagram live every Monday morning with my friend Lucy, and we record those episodes we upload them to our podcast for Thursday Thoughts. This week, we recorded the same episode twice because it just didn't work on Instagram. And then we decided today to do something totally different because we couldn't face talking about the same thing again. And actually what I thought was, do you know what? Maybe that's because I am meant to do a solo episode about what that episode of Monday Motivation / Thursday Thoughts was about. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. And the purpose of doing so is to hopefully help you if you are experiencing tough times, and help you to recognize that there is always stuff going on behind the scenes for everybody. And we can all show up shiny and happy and bright, but actually often we might forget that everybody's got stuff they're going through. So I just want to start by saying it's okay to not be okay. Now, I woke up on Monday, so this is kind of 2 weeks post-op. I woke up on Monday. It was a beautiful sunny day. I was sitting in bed. The sun was pouring through the window. And for some reason, I felt so sad and really so frustrated because on a morning like that, the sun's up now super early. It was about 5:45. My Giles had got up. He'd gone out, taken the dog out. He'd gone for a run. and I was still in bed, and it suddenly just made me really sad, because normally I would have got up and got out myself and really enjoyed that lovely early morning sunshine. And I just started crying, and all the emotion started pouring out of me. And I had a moment of, oh, this is utter shit. I am really over this already. I think I had felt that after my 2-week check with the surgeon, after getting my stitches out, it would all suddenly be miraculously better. But the reality is, this type of recovery is really long and boring and slow, and you can't rush it. And apparently it's between 9 months to a year before you get full recovery. I mean, obviously everyone's different. I'm hoping I'm going to be sooner than that. But the reality is, there is a protocol, you've got to follow it, and you can't rush it. And I think that hit really blooming hard on Monday morning, of like, oh no, this is really, really, really shit. And so I had a good old cry. And actually, I don't know what made me do this, because I don't normally do this, but I decided that I would record my thoughts in that moment on video of how I was feeling. And really, what I was feeling right then was, do you know what? Sometimes it's okay to feel really crappy. And often what we do, and I'm very, very good at doing this, is we stuff it all down and we pretend everything's okay. And we just tell people, yes, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I don't want to make a fuss. I don't want to cry. And actually, what I've learned, and what I am still learning, is, do you know what? It is good to have a good old cry. It is good to feel the emotions, to feel the feelings. That's why we cry as human beings. It's to release emotion. You know, emotion is literally energy in motion. So it's good to release it and let it out and feel it. And that's exactly what I did. So you might have, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you would have seen a reel of me blubbing. Oh my goodness, it took a lot to share that. I did ponder and ponder, oh God, does anybody want to see me sniveling? And I certainly didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me. But the reason I shared it was, maybe someone else might get something positive from my share. And actually, I'm glad I did, because the lovely, lovely, lovely comments and messages I received back, and actually a lot of people saying, wow, thank you, it's really helped me today. So that was a lesson in itself. Just share these things. We like people being open and honest, and not silver lining everything, because life is not like that. It's a bloody roller coaster of a ride. And I am feeling that more now than ever before. We're all human, and I think too often we can put on a mask and pretend everything's okay. And that really hit me when, that same morning on Monday, I turned up to the inner space, which I do at 7:30 on a Monday morning, to my community, and I had literally just stopped the blubbing. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to have to share with them how I'm feeling. So I did. I just said, oh my goodness, I'm struggling today. I've had a good old cry, and I just want you to know that, and that, it's all okay to feel your feelings. And one of my gorgeous members said to in the group, wow, Polly, it is so good to hear that you are human like the rest of us. And oh my goodness, that really hit quite hard, because I was like, gosh, do they think that I am always positive and upbeat and amazingly happy all the time? And obviously I want to show up as the best version of myself as often as I can. But my goodness, no, I am not. I feel things like everybody else. And so that was another reason why I pressed send on that post, because it's like, no, we all go through stuff, and it is okay not to be okay. And crying is a really good way to release energy. And we've got to stop apologizing for when we're crying. I mean, how often do we say, oh, I'm sorry when we're crying? We really just need to let that go. And I think it's because we don't want to make anybody who is with us experiencing us crying to feel uncomfortable. But as someone who is supporting and someone who is crying, the best thing we can do, rather than want them to stop, is just simply to comfort them and just give that person space to feel those emotions. Because apparently it only takes 90 seconds to move through an emotion. The chemicals which are produced in an emotion simply take 90 seconds to move through you. And this was discovered by Dr. Jill Bolt, I think her name was, who did a TED talk about this. It's really that short in terms of letting that emotion flow through your body. What keeps us stuck in that emotion are the thoughts and the stories that we attach to it. So it's that thinking about it. So on Monday, when I was feeling all the feels, I was telling myself the stories of like, this is shit, I can't go outside, I want to be outside, I'm feeling really heavy, I'm the heaviest I've been, it's because I'm not moving. All of the stories were going around my head again and again and again. And if you're not careful, you get stuck in those stories. And so that those emotions are they're just going round in circles. And what then happens is if we just keep those thoughts and that thinking about the emotion continuing, it becomes eventually a state of being. And that's when you can actually become depressed and it's much harder to get out of it. So I think it's a really important thing to remember that 90 seconds is what it takes. So awareness of the thinking around that emotion can be super helpful to help you move through it, to allow that emotion to be there, whether it's rage, whether it's sadness, whatever that feeling is, really allow yourself to feel it. And then have some awareness as to how you're going to then shift it, how you're going to shift into a different state. So we need to move that emotion and then find a way to do something such as shaking the body is great, dancing around your kitchen. What I did on Monday was, because I'm not great at shaking and moving and jumping and dancing at the moment, and also because I love it so much, is I did about 20 minutes of breath work. And that is a great way to shift negative, stale energy, moving it through the body. So I did 20 minutes of the first breath I did was repeated physiological sigh, which are 2 inhales in through the nose and then a long sigh out. Brilliant to do in these moments. And actually just 3 of those can help really shift the energy. I did that for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then I did about 4 or 5 minutes of what I call an infinity breath. So it was all in and out through the nose, but it was much more pacey. And the emphasis was on the inhale and then a gentle letting go. Put on some really good music, which always helps me. And then I finished with 3 hums, which helps to stimulate the vagus nerve. So it helps put you in your parasympathetic side of your nervous system. And then I finished after that with a bottom hold, which just allows you to sink into the moment and feel the energy that you've created. You can really feel kind of the aliveness in your body, the space that you've created within. And again, to some really lovely music. It really just helps you just feel so peaceful. And that was it really. And it just shifted my energy and it felt so, so good. Now, if you don't want to do the breath work, you can just step outside and get some fresh air. And that always helps as well. But it's just about, I think, movement, some sort of movement, and breath is a great way to create that movement, but some sort of movement to shift yourself out of that state alongside the awareness that you felt the emotion. And we're not talking here about stuffing those emotions down, because the moment you stuff them down, you are suppressing them and they get caught in the body, and they will come out in things like when you might be really snappy with someone, you might lose your temper with someone, you might suddenly burst into tears in a really inappropriate moment. So those emotions get stored. But also, actually, I'm just going to mention here as well, when we hold our emotion in. So if you think about the amount of times you've stuffed down a cry, you've tried to hold back the tears, but the same with laughter. How many times have you held in laughter because it's inappropriate to burst out laughing? Those emotions get stuck in the body because what do we do when we do that? We hold our breath. Our breath changes. So they get trapped. And things like, I mean, this grief is a big one here. You can trap that emotion in. And it's only when you open up that breath again and you breathe and you allow it to flow through the body that those emotions actually get to be released. I always find it so fascinating how often, when someone's never breathed with me before or done really any sort of breath work, quite often on their first session with me, they will cry and they have no idea why they've cried, but it's almost like a bubbling up of that emotion which has been trapped in their system, and then it's just released. They have a good cry. They don't really know where it's come from. There's no story really attached to it. They just let it out and then it's done. And it's really often just that first session. So it really demonstrates this is what is happening. So it's a really good way to move through some of these emotions. And I definitely felt better for it on Monday, without a doubt. And it's really kind of given me I think just to really notice that moment of like, okay, I'm really not enjoying this. This is bloody hard. And it's okay to admit that things are hard and that you're not coping. And, it then allows you to accept it and move on. And ever since I've done that, I've been feeling so much more positive and have sort of feel like, yeah, as I said, going into the next stage. The other thing I just wanted to mention as well was it's very easy to show up and do. I mean, for me, I was just thinking about like showing up and doing my inner space, guiding my inner space breathwork sessions. How easy it is to do when I'm feeling good, to show up and guide these brilliant women in that group. But when I'm feeling wobbly and not feeling very stable and feeling a bit emotional, how much harder that is. But what I noticed was even when I was feeling like that, I was able to do it. And I think what I'm trying to say here is I think that's because I have spent years now building a strong baseline for my nervous system. Many people come and work with me often when they're rock bottom, when things are really bad. And that's when we think, I need something to do. I need something to help me. And they're really great at implementing the tools in those really low moments. But actually, it's implementing the tools in the moments when you feel good, which I would say is even more important because it equips you so much better for those moments when you hit those lows, which you will, because life is lifey and it's always a roller coaster ride and we have to ride that wave. But it equips you to deal with those low moments so much better, so more you can feel the down moments like I did on Monday, but it equips you with the awareness to be able to find the tools to move through it more quickly and not get swallowed up by it and to stay and get stuck in it. And so being able to have a regulated nervous system 365 days of the year, whether you're on a high or whether you're in a low, I would say is just so important, so powerful, and so helpful to ride the wave of life. I think I've said that phrase now 3 times, but hey ho. As I said, it is easier to show up and do the practices when you're feeling good and not when you're feeling bad. But so let's use that. But I think many of us feel that it's not necessary when we're feeling good, and we kind of go to them when we're not feeling good. But having a strong baseline, having a regulated nervous system, as I've discussed before, helps you respond it really well in those moments when shit's hitting the fan, which, it does. So I think that's really all I wanted to talk to you about today. A short and sweet episode, but I'm back. I am wondering what's going to happen next week. I'm going to try with these episodes to speak more off the cuff. Often I will almost script the episodes. I'll do loads and loads of research, which of course I will do. But equally, I want to try and talk more from the heart. Trust that what I have to say is relevant and important and will be helpful in some way, without too much waffle. That is my plan. So I hope you have found today's episode of some use. If you have, I'd love to hear from you. It is always so nice to get some feedback for some of these episodes. It's so weird sometimes just talking into the ether. You don't quite know how it's being received. So if you have felt something from this, please do let me know. All my details will be coming right up. So in the meantime, take loads of care for yourself. I am sitting here as we talk with my leg up, trying to get it straight. It's nearly there. This is my big mission at the moment because it was bent for about 4 months. So we're getting there. So yeah, take care. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye. Before you go, just to let you know that you'll find a selection of gentle, practical offers at really accessible prices over on my website. They're all designed to support your everyday breathing, to ease anxiety, and help you build a more resilient, flexible nervous system so you can feel calmer and bring a little more steadiness into your daily life. Everything I share is designed to meet you where you are and to fit into real busy lives. Just go to hollywarren.com and click on the resource library. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, you can also find me over on Instagram at Polly Warren Coaching. This is where I share simple reminders and tools and reflections to help you come back to calm throughout the week. And if you're enjoying Take a Breath, it would mean so much if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help this podcast reach more women who might need a little space to breathe too. Thank you so much for being here and for taking this time for yourself. And remember, sometimes all you need to do is take a breath.